It's also interesting to see who's spending their money exploring for zinc. And this graph is pretty interesting because a lot of people, there's been a lot of press about the major companies reducing their exploration focus. But this graph's showing you that still 50% of the exploration expenditure is being done by the major companies for zinc. The juniors are still churning in a lot of money, but it's not as much as the majors. So there is still a lot of effort around the world by the major companies, the major mining companies, major mining houses focusing on zinc. The largest companies, so these are the 5 largest zinc mining companies. And you can see Glencore there is up at the top, but you also have a range of mid-level mining companies. The next plot is the actual 5 largest zinc smelting companies. And you can see there that there's a significant overlap. So there's quite a lot of vertical integration. There are companies in the world that both mine and process and produce refined metal. The top 5 companies, when you account for their production, produce 25% of the annual world requirement for zinc. But to get from 25% to 50%, it takes the top 30 companies. To go from 50 to 55%, you need an additional production from 70 more companies. So those 70 companies are only contributing 5% of the world production. Therefore, the really important thing to note from this is that yes, there are some very large players in the zinc market, but there's lots and lots of opportunity for small players. And the companies the number of companies that account for the remaining 45% of annual production were in the hundreds. So there's lots of opportunities for small players in the zinc industry.
In short, it's better probably to be in the business of converting resources into reserves than necessarily looking at companies that are at the downstream end and therefore perhaps the more price-sensitive end. Is that a fair comment?
You well and truly out of my expertise. I'm not going to make a judgment on that one. But the only thing I would say is that there are a substantial number of players in the zinc industry that are vertically integrated. So they own the mines, they own the smelters, and they want to secure the raw production, and then they want to be in control of the smelting and refining. And the Nurstars, the Glencores, and a couple of other companies are very much across the whole vertical side of the industry, whereas there's also a number of players that are purely smelting companies versus a number of companies that are just purely miners, and then they just have straight sales terms and get rid of or sell their concentrate that way. In terms of which would be better, that's definitely not my call.
All right.